Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also thank Honourable Brijlal for this particular question. I think this might elaborate a little bit more for the House with respect to the previous questions. Madam Speaker, the building standards are generally a term referred to for the minimum requirements that a building contractor needs to fulfill when constructing a building, and keeping in mind basically the quality and safety of the building. These standards, although specify things such as how a roof needs to be bound to the rafter, the strength of wind speed, etc., and the location of exits and access for disabled persons, etc. Madam Speaker, these standards also include the minimum standards or minimum requirements set for the materials used in construction. For example, the standards required for steel enforcement or reinforcement, standards for roofing material, the strength of cement blocks, just to name a few. All building construction in Fiji, Madam Speaker, especially in the urban centres, are governed by the National Building Code, as alluded to earlier, which is administered by the Central Board of Health, and whilst a number of building material standards are under the Ministry for Industry, Trade and Tourism. Madam Speaker, in order to improve the standards, as stated in the National Building Code and the list administered by the Ministry, the Fijian Building Standards Committee was reactivated in March 2016. And the committee includes all the relevant stakeholders, such as the Ministry of Infrastructure, the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Local Government, engineers, architects, insurance companies, and tertiary institutions. Madam Speaker, the committee has been tasked to look at all the standards that are required within the building code and the building material standards enforced by my ministry. The committee is also tasked to recommend amendments and improvements to these particular standards. Additionally, Madam Speaker, the committee will also make recommendations on the licensing of professionals in the construction industry to ensure that we are able to set minimum requirements for professionals in the construction industry, especially when working on certain types of buildings. Madam Speaker, having standards does not always ensure that all buildings will be compliant. Therefore, the group of experts are working with the enforcement agencies to identify areas for improvement in the enforcement of the National Building Code and other standards. Madam Speaker, the committee has also taken the role of creating awareness on the current code, with about 2,000 odd copies of the Home Builders Manual being circulated to enable people to have basic information in the reconstruction phase. Madam Speaker, the Ministry is working with all the relevant stakeholders to improve the Fijian building standards, and is also ensuring that appropriate information is made available to the people as they rebuild their homes post-Cyclone Winston. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary question, the Honourable Walker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Also relating to the previous question and this one regarding building standards, Madam Speaker, I wonder if government is looking at setting up a support system on the ground to ensure that all these standards are observed at the village level. It is very difficult to get a structural engineer in the village. It is very difficult to get an electrician in the village. It is very difficult to get a plumber in the village, among others. So all these wonderful ideas and all these policies and papers will come to nothing if you don't have people in place around Fiji, whether in the provincial offices or in the provincial administrators, to see that there is a team who villagers can go to for clearance on how to build in keeping with the new standards. So is government, other than this, creating that support structure at the village level? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I give the floor to the Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think this government, Madam Speaker, is doing what government should have done 20 years ago. And there are homes outside villages also, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what I alluded to earlier, and I think it was not heard, and I'll say it again, having standards does not ensure that all buildings will be compliant. Therefore, the group of experts, Madam Speaker, are working with the enforcement agencies to identify areas for improvement in the enforcement of the National Building Code. Madam Speaker, the review that's basically taking place is not just being looked at in a small way, it's actually being looked at holistically. So all of these things that need to be addressed are being addressed by the actual committee.
Thank you. And I give the floor to the Honourable Samara Vunivalu. Or was it? Sorry. Pillay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the Honourable Minister inform what is the purpose of reviewing the Fijian building material standards? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, over time, there came a need to review the minimum requirements set for building standards. This is crucial to improve the quality and, most importantly, the safety of a building. I think Cyclone Winston has put this at the forefront of our minds. The building construction and materials, Madam Speaker, need to withstand the strength of cyclones. We cannot do these things haphazardly anymore. Earthquakes and also other natural disasters. And most importantly, the building should be able to serve the purpose that it is constructed for, Madam Speaker. Furthermore, the standards are reviewed and amended to take into account new technology that leads to improvement of the quality of building materials and provides a cost-effective construction process. Madam Speaker, also what must be borne in mind, and as per our commitment in the Green Growth Framework, we are also ensuring that the review process also provides for environmentally friendly standards in the construction sector. So as I said, alluded to earlier, Madam Speaker, it is being looked at holistically in order to ensure that we have a complete building standards.
Thank you. Honourable Vande.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the response made by the Minister on the question. My question is, in improving standards, we need laboratory to certify that the materials are properly used. In Fiji, we refer to FNU for the hardness of timber or concrete. May I ask the Minister which laboratory they refer to in terms of the quality of the materials that will be dispersed from the retail outlets? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, may I ask him to just repeat the last portion of the question?
Please repeat the last portion of your question. The actual question that you asked.
My question is, which laboratory they refer to for the testing of the materials that the committee that they will look to or into for the materials to be certified to be used by the public? Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I think, thank you, Honourable Member, for the question. But I think what really needs to be known here, if I just may explain a little bit also, the standards that are being reviewed by the committee, Madam Speaker, these standards are the current, I'll just explain. The current standards currently being reviewed, like there's one particular standard that's called FSAS 1592. This is a design and installation of sheet roof and wall cladding. Now, FS2-1 2016 is sheet roof and wall cladding minimum. All of these things, Madam Speaker, then the new standards that are being considered, something that's respect to wind loads for housing. This is AS4055, continuous hot dip metallic coated steel and strip coatings of zinc, and zinc alloyed with aluminium and magnesium. This is what my friend wants to hear. This is AS1397 and AS4055. Madam Speaker, as I alluded to earlier, what he's asking, I will explain it, please. I'll ask him. All of these things, with respect to what he's asking also about the lab, are being looked at by the committee. The current lab deals with what it can, and the committee is there to look at it holistically as to what is required, right, for the future at the end of the day, Madam Speaker. And also, we even do things such as the steel, nail, and metric series, which is actually also considered by the committee. This, at the moment, the standards are sufficient to regulate the quality of steel nails. So we have a sufficient laboratory to do this, but it is being looked at to see if there are the improvements that can be made.
Thank you. And I give the floor to the Honourable Bulita.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the Minister for his answer this morning. In regards to the experts that will be in the committee to review the standards of materials, it seems that the materials that are currently being issued by the Help for Homes initiative are not up to standards. Not only that, Madam Speaker, homes that will be built not according to standards, because materials that were supplied did not meet the minimum required standards. What will the committee do and the ministry do in regards to even complying with hardware companies in distributing this kind of materials, Madam Speaker, into the building of these kind of homes, Madam Speaker, to withstand cyclone and other climatic changes, Madam Speaker, given that it's not only hurricane, even waves and earthquakes and other natural disasters, Madam Speaker. What will the committee do in regards to standardizing those buildings that have already been built?
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, although this is a question that, with respect to the health for homes, that should have been addressed to the Honourable Attorney General, but when the expression of interest went out, all of that was part of the expression of interest. So the materials being used, actually, the expression of interest contained information that was given by engineers. So I think that was sufficiently addressed. Your question, from what I understand, is that you're asking, what is it that's going to be done about the homes that have been built? Just so I can relate to you something I said earlier, there are enforcement agencies. If somebody has, for example, purchased something that may seem deficient, they have a right to complain. They can actually tell us, and we will take to task the person that has supplied that material. So there are enforcement agencies that deal with it. And Madam Speaker, especially after post-Winston, we have been very vigilant with respect to, at the border and the hardware stores, with respect to finding out whether the right materials have actually gotten into the country. So we've been very vigilant about it, Madam Speaker. So his fears should not be a problem.